Hey AP Psych class, we're going to talk about eating disorders. We might split this up into two short videos. We're going to talk about body image and body dissatisfaction first. So remember, as an AP student, you want to be asking yourself a question, can you describe body image, body dissatisfaction, and factors that contribute to this after the video? And if you need to, stop and rewind and certainly jot down questions so we can ask those in class. And let's get started here. And again, we're going to talk about kind of the precipitation to eating disorders and what kind of goes along with that. And we'll probably talk about eating disorders in a short separate video. But those with eating disorders such as anorexia and bulimia tend to be people, they tend to be young women, and they tend to idealize thinness, and they tend to be fairly dissatisfied with their body and their appearance. Now we'll talk about some factors that might contribute to this, especially psychosocial factors, environmental factors or variables such as fashion magazines and media and their perception of beauty. Some facts, interesting fact that men are more likely to be overweight than women, but women are much more likely to feel overweight than men are. So in several studies that I've read, about 50% of women, young women, are dissatisfied with their weight and their body type. And this may start very early. I found this to be a fairly powerful ad. And again, we got to go back to Bandura's observational learning and modeling how early this can start for young women, especially if they have an older sibling or a mother who is very concerned about their weight and body type and fashion. So let's take a look at body dissatisfaction, and if you see this in the PowerPoint, you'll just see BD for body dissatisfaction instead of taking up space with the whole terms. University of Michigan study 1999 demonstrated the effects of body dissatisfaction on academic performance. Students were asked to take a math test. So this was a random sample, male and female students at University of Michigan. I don't know if it was just freshmen. I don't remember the specific sample, but they were asked to take a math test, and they took this test alone. So this was a placement math test, and it was in a fitting room. So there were mirrors in there, but there was just one desk in there and one person taking the test, and they weren't filmed or anything. But half the women were asked to take a math test in a swimsuit or a bikini, and half the men were asked to take the math test in a swimsuit like a Speedo and a sweater. The results were kind of interesting. The women performed worse if they were wearing a swimsuit. So if they took the test in the swimsuit with the mirrors, they tended to perform worse than the other women. And for the men, there was no such difference between the experimental and control group. The control group being a sweater-wearing group, of course. So it seems like the women who were in the swimsuit and in the bikini, they struggled with their math a little bit. Another study showed that girls were offered free magazines subscriptions for a year or 18 months, I think, and they didn't get to pick the magazines they got. Some got news magazines, some got sports magazines, some got fashion magazines. But the girls who read the fashion magazines displayed greater body dissatisfaction after the experiment was over. And that's not surprising because even health and fitness magazines tend to portray a particular body type, very thin, in their magazines. So another interesting study, here we have a body mass index chart, and women were asked some questions. Actually, men were asked a question too, but women were asked what body type they thought men preferred. And the women tended to select an underweight, a lower body mass index, very thin model. Another question, what would women's ideal body weight be, ideal body type be? And they picked an ideal body type in the normal weight range, but on the thin side, not quite as thin as they thought men preferred. And then men were asked what body type they actually preferred. And they actually preferred a body type that was in the normal range, but a little higher body mass index than the women's ideal or what the women thought men preferred. And then where women saw themselves, I think you kind of guessed where they were going. Women tended to see themselves as overweight, even though if they weren't. So where the women saw themselves currently was certainly much higher than what they thought men preferred, what their ideal was, and actually what men's real preference was. So again, this kind of demonstrates body dissatisfaction, and this is kind of a precipitory for eating disorders. So we're going to stop there, and we'll move into eating disorders in the next video. Good luck.